Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Sham Sharadava Nalalida Loka Tranaya Karuna Gana Ganatam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Bande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Prapta Sakalyana Gunanavasya Bande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nitya Gita Vaditra Madhyam Manasurasena Mahaprabhu Tana Nitya Gita Vaditra Romanchakam Pasru Taranga Bhajo Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Taranga Bhajo Shri Vigrahara Dana Nityanana Shingaratanema Niramajanado Dana Nityanana Shingaratanema Joktasya bhaktamsya neyunjatapi Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vande Gurashi Chaturvidhashi Bhagavat Prasada Shratana Truptan Hari Bhakta Shanga Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasada Shratana Truptan Hari Bhakta Shanga Kritaiva Trupti Bhajato Shadeva Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Vajata Sadeva Shiradikama Dabayara Para Madhura Leela Gunarupa Namna Shiradikama Para Madhura Leela Pratikshana Tanalupasa Vande Gurashi Charanaravrindam Tanalupasa Ne kunjayono Ratikali siddhai Jajali virjukti apekshaniya Ne kunjayono Ratikali siddhai Jajali virjukti Tatrati daksha Ati balavasya Bande Gora Shri Charanaravinda. Sacha Dharitena Shamasta Shastrir Ruktas Tathava Vyataiva Sadvi Sakya Dharitena Shamasta Shastrir Ruktas Tathava Kintu Prabhoja Priya Eva Tasya Bande Garashi Charanaravinda. Priya Eva Tasya Bande Garashi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Nagadikutapi Yasya Prasada Bhagavat Prasado Yasya Prasadam Dayam Stubam Tasa Yasatri Sandhyam Bande Gurashi Charanaravrindam. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina Mine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitina. Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravane Pracharine Nirvishesha Shonavadi Pachattare Shatarine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shonavadi Pachattare Shatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Bol. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hariyaraya Namah, Krishna Jadavaya Namah, Jadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namah, Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan, Giridhari Gopinath Madana Mohan, Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita, Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita, Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhattaraguna, Shri Jiva Gopala Bhattu Dasaraguna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Shri Radha, Nila Madhava Radha, Nila Madhava Radhe. Jayo Jagannath, Jayo Baladeva, Jayo Subhadrama, Jayo Sudarshan Chakra. Jaya Sitaram, 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 Jayo Lakshman Hanuman. Nittai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nittai Gaura Pramanande, Haribo, Jai Vishnu Para Paramsa Prabhajakachade, Ashtutara Saraswati Shimas, 81 Grace. Abhacharvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ji ki jai. ISKCON Pratishtha Viviti Samstapakachar Vaishnava Sramani Gaura Priyajan. Krishna Prima Bhakti Datta Patita Pavana Srila Prabhupada Ji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Gauriya Guru Varga Patita Udhari ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Guna Sat Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ji ki jai. Jayananta Koti Vaishnavrinda ki jai. Prem se Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shubhasari Gaur Bhaktavrind ki jai. Jai Paramadayal Sri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai. Premanama Sankirtane Kajanaka Prema Purushottama Shri Sachinandana Shriman Gauranga Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Gaur Hari Mahaprana Avatar ki jai. Golokera Pramadhan Harinama Sankirtan Jaga ki jai. Yoga Dharma Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai. Priya Book Distribution Seva ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopina Radha Kund Samakund Giriraj Govardhan ki jai. Shri Brajabam Vrindavan Mathura ki jai. The Lordship Shri Radha Nila Madhava ki jai. Shri Maya Purnavadip Eka Chakra Dham ki jai. Parama Karuna Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai. Shri Purushottama Ketra Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Shri Jagannath Swami Baladev Prabhu Srimati Subhadra Devi Sudarshan Chakra Bhagavan ki jai. Bhakti Sarva Vigna Vinashana Kanishingare Bhagavan ki jai. Jaganga Mai Jamuna Mai ki jai. Tulasi Maharani Vrindi Devi Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Maturadharani ki jai. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrindi ki jai. Nitai Gaurari Pramanandi Hari 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 Bo. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories to the assembly bodies. All glories. Glories to Shri Shri Guru Shri Gauranga. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya. Pralada Narada Haine. Pralada Narada Haine. Hiranyakashipu Daksha. Silatankanaka Laya. Ito Nishinga Barato Nishinga. Ito Nishinga Bharata Nisingam Jato Jato Jami Tato Nisingam Bair Nisingam Hridaya Nisingam Narasimhamadin Sharanam Prapade Tabakara Kamalavare Nakam Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringam Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Tabakara Kamalavare Nakam Adabhuta Singha Dalita Hiranyakasipu Tanabringa Kesavadita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Kesavadruta Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jai Jagadishare Jaya Nishingade Jaya Nishingade Nishingade Jaya Nishingade Jaya Narahari Jaya Narahari Narahari Jaya Narahari Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Lakshmi Narasimha Jaya Bhakta Prahlad Prahlad Maharaj Bhakta Prahlad Sila Prahlad Maharaj Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol जय श्री श्री भक्ति पद सर्वविघ्नाशना कनिष्ठिंगरे भगवान की जय जय भक्त श्रेष्ठ प्रहलाद महाराज की जय हरिनाम संकीर्तन युग धर्म की जय नित्य गौरारी प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल Shri Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devi Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattavataye Namo Namaha. Vrindayai Tulasi Devai Priyayai Kesava Satya Vishnu Bhakti Prade Devi Sattavataye Namo Namaha. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki Jai. Bring it down a little bit. No, don't put a mic. You come out. It's just the stick.
Namo Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo
Namo Namaha Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo Namaha.
Tulasi Krishna Preyasi Namo
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Pavo Eya Bhilashi.
Radha Krishna Seva Prabhu Eya Vilasi.
Je tomara sharana loy tara vancha purana hoy.
Je tomara sharana tara vancha purana.
Kripa kori goro tare Vrindavan vasi.
Tumi kripa kore kara tare Vrindavan vasi.
Morae abhilash vilas kunje diyo vas.
Moraye Vilas Vilas Kunje Diyava.
Nayane haribo sada jugal ruparasi.
Aminayane Riva Sada Jugala Ruparasi.
Ei nivedana dharo sakhir anuga
खीरयन कथाकार
सेवा अधिकारा दिए कोरो निज दासी
सेवा यारे कर दिए करने जदासी
दीना कृष्ण दासे कोई ये न मोरा होए
दीना कृष्ण दास को ए नमरा
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नवासी
श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदा ये न भासी
श्री राधा गोविंद प्रेम सदा ये नवासी
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
जाने कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यानि कनिषा तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
जाने कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यानि तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्माहत्यादिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिणा पदे पदे
जाने कानि शापानि ब्रह्महत्यानि तानि तानि प्रणाशन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी जया तुलसी महारानी
Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani, Tulsi Maharani, Jaya Tulsi Maharani.
जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी जया वृंदा देवी
Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi, Jaya Vrinda Devi.
नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल नित्याय गौरा हरि बोल। श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी वृंदा देवी की जय।
Jai. Shri Vrindai tulasi debai priyaye ke sabasata Vishnu bhakti pradedeve satabhaktaye Vrindaye tulasi debai priyaye ke sabasata Vishnu bhakti pradedeve satabhaktaye Vrindaye tulasi debai priyaye ke sabasata Vishnu bhakti pradedeve satabhaktaye Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki Jai. Oh Tulasi, beloved Krishna, I bow before you again and again. My desire to attend the service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Whoever takes shelter of you has wishes fulfilled. Bestow your mercy upon him, you make him resident of Vrindavana. My desire is that you also grant me a residence in pleasure groves of Sri Vrindavan now. Thus within my vision I will always behold the beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me a follower of Kavya damsels of Raj. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna praise. May I always swim in love, Shri Radha and Govind. Jai Shrimati Tulasi Maharani Vrindadevi ki Jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Siksastakam ki Jai. Chaito Darpanam Arjanam Pavamahada Bhagni Nirvapanam Shri Akari Vachandrika Vitaranam Vidya Badhu Jivanam Ananda Mudharanam Padipadam Purnam Swadanam Sarvatmasnam Param Jayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Vaudha Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Shmarane Nakala Etadrusi Tabha Bhagavan Mamapi Durgaiva Midrishami Ajane Nanuragaha Trinadapi Sunichena Tarodapi Saishna Amanina Kirtanya Sadakari Nadananana Sundarim Kavitamba Jagadishaka Mahe Mama Janmane Janmanishya Bhavata Bhakti Rahaitu Kitwai Ainandatamija Kinkaram Paritamam Vishame Bhavamudur Vijayatabhakar Pankajam Sitaduli Sadrisham Vichintaya Nayanam Galavashrudharaya Vadanam Gadagana Vira Pulakani Sitam Vapukada Davanama Grahane Bhavisati Jugaitam Nimishena Chakyusa Prabhusaitam Shunyaitam Jagata Sarvam Govinda Virahena Me Aslishava Padaratam Pinashtumam Adarshanar Marmahatam Karotuva Jatata Thava Vidadatu Lampoto Matpranatastu Saivana Para Rama Rama Hari Hari Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Siksastakam ki Jai Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Trishe Namaha. Glory to the Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of condition of life of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we're always anxious. Oh my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings. And thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy name. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. Once you chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than straw in the street, one should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet some or other I have fallen in this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, when will my eyes will be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna as my Lord, and he should remain so, even if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Sikhastakam Ki Jai. Namo Mahavadana Krishna Prema Pradati Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Megutri Shri. There are 10 offenses in the matter of chanting the holy name of the Lord that should be avoided. They are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who dedicated life for propagating the holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider names of demigods like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the orders of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literatures or literatures and pursuits of Vedic version. 5. To consider the glory of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to the holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name of the Lord. 8. To consider the chanting Hare Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in Vedas as fruitive activity, karma kanda. 9. To instruct the faithless person about the glories of holy name. And 10. To not have a complete faith in the chanting of holy names, and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions in this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us offer our most humble obeisance to all the Vaishnavas devoted to the Lord. They are just like desired trees. They can fulfill the desires of everyone. They are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Jaivancha kalpatarubhya
Kripa sindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Vaishnava Thakur ki jai. Namah Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Gosai Bhakti Smata Bhakti Smata. Namaste Saraswati Devi Guru Namaste Samaskar. Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Om Aganyati Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chaksurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manubhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Spa Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Chitaha Pajagavlan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Rakunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Saidvaya Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nimitamsa Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namini Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Disatarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutali Shrimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namini Shivasavanavi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaya Krishna Sambandha Vigyana Dayane Prabhave Namaha Madhur Ujjvala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Vaktita Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostate Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasidanta Dvantaharine Namo Gora Kishoraya Sakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambujayate Namaha Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachitananda Namine Gora Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Goravir Baba Bhumestvam Yudesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhoma Sri Jaganatayate Namaha Vanchakalpa Durabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavudanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachuse Namaha Panchatatvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhakta Avataram Bhakta Akam Namami Bhakta Saktikam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Chayatam Suratur Pangur Mama Manda Mategati Matsarvasva Padambujo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindaranya Kalpa Dumadaha Shimad Ratnagara Simasanastito Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prastali Vihe Sevyamano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasaram Bivam Sivata Tatastita Karsan Venus Vaner Gopir Gopinatakstriye Stuna Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Rishabhanustute Demi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Anadi Radhe Govinda Sarvakarana Karanam Chentamani Prakarasat Masakalpa Riksha Laksavrite Susurabhira Vipalyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Venum Kwanantam Aravinda Dalayataksam Parhavatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandarpa Koti Kamaniya Visesa Sobham Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kalasadvana Malya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakila Kalavilasam Shayamam Divam Gapralita Nita Prakatam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajam Gani Yasya Sakalendriya Vittimanti Pasyanti Panti Kalyanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrasya Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta Rupam Adyam Purana Purisham Navayovanam Cha Vedesa Durlabham Adurlabham Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Pantasta Koti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayora Tapi Manasomuni Pungamanam Sopyasti Yat Prapadisimya Vichintitatve Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Kopya Sora Chayitam Jagaranda Kotim Yas Chaktirasti Jagaranda Chayayadanta Dantarasta Paramanu Chayantarastam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Bhava Bhavita Dio Manajasta Taiva Samprapya Rupa Mahima Sanayanabusa Suktaryam Evan Nigama Pratitastuvanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasapati Bhavita Bistabirya Evan Nijarupa Taya Kalabi Goloka Evan Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksa Deva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Brahmadi Murti Sukalani Menatista Nanavataram Akaro Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasya Prabha Prabhavato Jagadanda Koti Yurkoti Svasesa Vasdadi Vibhuti Binam Tad Brahma Niskalamanantam Asesa Bhutam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Mayahi Yasya Jagadanda Satani Sute Trigunya Tad Visaya Veda Vitayamanam Sadvavalam Viparasatvam Visuddha Satvam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasatmatayami Alsu Ya Praninam Patifulam Smaratam Upetya Lilayatena Bhuvanani Jaya Jasram Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Goloka Namni Nijadamni Talecha Tasya Devi Mahesa Aridama Sutesha Tesu Tete Prabhavini Jaya Vichasya Yena Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Susteshta Te Pralaya Sadhava Sakti Reka Chayeva Vayasya Bhuvanani Vibharti Durga Ichana Rupam Apyasya Shestatesa Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ksiram Kenta Dadi Vikara Visesi Yoga Sanjayate Naitata Pritakasti Hetu Yasambhutam Apitata Samapaitikar Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Diparchadevi Santaramabhyupetya Dipayate Vivitahitu Samanudana Yastadrikevi Vishnu Tayavibhati Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yakarna Narnava Jale Bhajatisma Yoga Nidram Ananta Jagaranda Saroma Kupa Adhara Saktam Avalambya Param Swavartyam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yasyaikani Swasita Kalamata Avalambya Jivanti Loma Villaja Jagaranda Nata Vishnu Mahansa Yasya Kalavi Seso Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Basmanya Tasma Sakalesu Nujesa Tejas Riyam Kiyat Pukatayata Pitad Vatatra Brahmaya Esa Jagaranda Vidhana Karta Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbadwande Pranama Samayese Ganadi Raja Vignan Vinantam Alamasi Jagatresha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Agnir Mahiga Ganamambu Marudisastra Kalasta Tatma Manasiti Jagatrayani Yasmad Bhavanti Vibhavanti Visanti Amcha Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yaschak Suresa Savita Sakalagrahana Raja Samasta Suramurti Sesa Teja Yasya Gaya Brahmati Sambrata Kal Chakro Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Dharmota Papa Nichaya Surtayasta Pamsi Brahmadi Kita Patagava Deasta Jiva Yadata Matari Bhava Prakata Prabhava Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yastrindra Gopa Matavendra Mahosva Karma Bandana Rupa Falabhaja Namatanoti Karmani Nidahati Kintuchi Bhakti Bhajam Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Yam Kroda Kamasa Japanadi Biti Vatsaya Moha Gurgoro Vasavya Bhavai Sanchintya Tasya Sadrisim Talamapurete Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Shriya Kanta Kanta Parama Purusha Kaputara Vajramad Munis Chitamani Ganama Yeto Amritam Kataganam Natyam Gamanama Pivam Sipriyasa Kichiranandam Jyoti Parama Pitada Swadya Picha Sayatra Siradi Bidishavati Sirabi Vyasta Sumaha Nimesa Dakyavava Jitina Hiyatra Bisamaya Bajay Sridadu Dam Tamaham Ihagolokamiti Yam Vidanta Ste Santakshati Virat Sharakatipaye Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. The spiritual master is receiving benediction from the ocean of mercy, just as a cloud pours water on a forest fire to extinguish it, so the spiritual master delivers the material world by extinguishing the blazing fire of material existence. Are from our respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who is an ocean of auspicious qualities, chanting the holy name, dancing in ecstasy, singing and playing musical instruments. The spiritual master is always gladdened by the sanctum movement of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Because he is relishing the mellows of pure devotion within his mind, sometimes his hair stands on and he feels quivering in his body, and tears from his eyes like waves. Therefore, my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such a spiritual master. The spiritual master is always engaged in the temple worship of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. He also engages his disciples in such worship. They dress the deities in beautiful clothes and ornaments, clean their temple, and perform other similar worship. But the Lord, for my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always offering Krishna 4 kinds of delicious food, analyzes that which is licked, chewed, drunk, and sucked. When the spiritual master sees that the devotees are satisfied by eating Bhagavat Prasada, he is satisfied. For my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. The spiritual master is always eager to hear and chant about the unlimited conjugal pastimes, Radhika and Madhava, and their qualities, names, and forms. The spiritual master aspires to relish these at every moment. For my respectful basis unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is very dear because he is expert at assisting gopis who at different times make different tasteful arrangements for the perfection of Radha and Krishna's conjugal loving affairs within the groves of Vrindavan. For my most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master. Spiritual master is beyond as much as Supreme Lord because he is the most confidential servant to the Lord. This is acknowledged in all revealed scriptures and followed by all authorities. Therefore, for my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of such spiritual master, who is a bona fide representative of Sri Hare Krishna. By the mercy of the spiritual master, one receives a benediction. Krishna, without the grace of the spiritual master, one cannot make any advancement. Therefore, I should always remember and praise the spiritual master at least 3 times a day. I should offer my respectful obeisance unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text 26. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tato Nanda Vrajam Ita Pitra Kamsad Vibhyata Ekadasa Samastatra Gudar Richi Sabalo Vasat. Tata, thereafter, Nanda Vrajam, cow pastures of Nanda Maharaja. Ita, being brought up. Pitra, by his father. Kamsad, from Kamsa. Vibhyata, being afraid of. Ekadasa, 11. Sama, years. Tatra, therein. Mangala Aarti, covered fire, Sabala, with Baladeva, Avasad, resided. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Thereafter his father, being afraid of Kamsa, brought him to the cow pastures of Maharaj Nanda, and there he lived for 11 years like a covered flame with his brother Baladeva. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. There was no necessity of the Lord being dispatched to the house of Nanda Maharaj out of fear of Kamsa's determination to kill him as soon as he appeared. It is the business of the Asura to try to kill the Supreme Personality Godhead, or to prove by all means that there is no God, or that Krishna is an ordinary human being and not God. Lord Krishna is not affected by such determination of men of Kamsa's class, but in order to play the role of a child, he agreed to be carried by his father to the cow pastures of Nanda Maharaj because Vasudeva was afraid of Kamsa. Nanda Maharaj was due to receive him as his child, and Yasodamaya was also to enjoy the childhood pastimes of the Lord. Therefore, to fulfill everyone's desire, he was carried from Mathura to Vrindavana, just after his appearance in the prison house of Kamsa. He lived there for 11 years and completed all his fascinating pastimes of childhood, boyhood, and adolescence with his elder brother, Lord Baladeva. His first expansion, Lord Baladeva, his first expansion. Vasudeva's thought of protecting Krishna from the wrath of Kamsa is part of the transcendental relationship the Lord enjoys more when someone takes him as his subordinate son who needs the protection of a father than he does when someone accepts him as the Supreme Lord. He is the father of everyone, and he protects everyone. But when his devotee takes it for granted that the Lord is to be protected by the devotee's care, it is a transcendental joy for the Lord. Thus, when Vasudeva, out of fear of Kamsa, carried him to Vrindavana, the Lord enjoyed it. Otherwise, he had no fear from Kamsa or anyone else. Text 27. Parito vatsapayar vatsam charayan vyaharad vibhu yamun o pavane kujat Dvija sankulitan gripe Parita, surrounded by Vatsapai, cowherd boys, Vatsan, calves, Charayan, herding, tending, Vyaharat, enjoyed by traveling, Vibhu, the Almighty, Yamuna, the Yamuna River, Upavane, gardens on the shore, Kujat, vibrated by the voice, Dvija, the twice-born birds, Sankulita, densely situated, Angripe, in the trees. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves, and thus he traveled on the shore of the Yamuna River, through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Nanda Maharaja was a landholder for King Kamsa. But because by caste he was a Vaishya, member of the mercantile and agricultural community, he maintained thousands of cows. It is the duty of the Vaishyas to give protection to the cows, just as the Kshatriyas are to give protection to human beings. Because the Lord was a child, he was put in charge of the calves, and with his cowherd boy friends. These cowherd boys were great rishis and yogis in their previous births, and after many such pious births, they gained the association of the Lord and could play with him on equal terms. Such cowherd boys never cared to know who Krishna was, but they played with him as a most intimate and lovable friend. They were so fond of the Lord that at night They would only think of the next morning when they would be able to meet the Lord and go together to the forest for cow herding. The forests on the shore of Yamuna are all beautiful gardens full of trees of mango, jackfruit, apples, guava, oranges, grapes, berries, palm fruit, and so many other plants and fragrant flowers. And because the forest was on the bank of the Yamuna, naturally there were ducks, cranes, peacocks on the branches of the trees. All these trees and birds and beasts were pious living entities born in the transcendental abode of Vrindavana, just to give pleasure to the Lord and his eternal associates. While playing like a small child with his associates, the Lord killed many demons, including Agasura, Bakasura, Pralambasura, and Gardabasura. Although he appeared at Vrindavan just as a boy, he was actually the covered flames of a fire. As a small particle of fire can kindle a great fire with fuel, so the Lord killed all the great demons, beginning from his babyhood in the house of Nanda Maharaj. The land of Vrindavana, the Lord's childhood playground, still remains today, and anyone who visits these places enjoys the same transcendental bliss, although the Lord is not physically visible to our imperfect eyes. The Lord Chaitanya recommended this land of the Lord as identical with the Lord and therefore worshipable by the devotees. This instruction is taken up especially by the followers of Lord Chaitanya, known as the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And because the land is identical with the Lord, devotees like Uddhava and Vidura visited these places 5,000 years ago in order to have direct contact with the Lord, visible or not visible. Thousands of devotees of the Lord are still wandering in these sacred places of Vrindavana, and all of them are preparing themselves to go back home, back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In his childhood, the Almighty Lord was surrounded by cowherd boys and calves, and thus he traveled on the shore of the Yamuna River through gardens densely covered with trees and filled with vibrations of chirping birds. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Buddha Srimad Bhakti Srimad Namaste Saraswati Devi Guruvani Pachani Vishesha Sunyavadi Paskati Vastar. So the same Vrindavan is there today. We can go there and experience the same things that were experienced over 5,000 years ago, if we have the proper guidance of bona fide Shiksha and Diksha gurus, and if we are addicted to hearing regularly every day classes spoken by such sincere devotees, and also if we are following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, then we'll be able to experience the same pastimes that Krishna exhibited 5,000 years ago by visiting the different places of those pastimes and hearing again about the significance of those places and the Lord's transcendental activities that took place there. So that's called parikrama, visiting the holy places of transcendental pastimes of the Lord. And every year there are festivals where people go on parikrama, and other people who live in Vrindavan explain to them the significance of all those transcendental places of the Lord's pastimes. So Vrindavan is still there. It might not look exactly the way it did over 5,000 years ago, with pristine beauty, but still the Yamuna River is there, the different forests are there, and the different places of pastimes are there. How do we develop eyes to see? Well, we begin to see by hearing. If we just try and look, we might not be able to see correctly. But if we see through hearing, then we can see correctly. So there's a difference between seeing with the raw eye and seeing through the prism of transcendental awakening due to regular hearing from bona fide devotees. So this is explained in the Bhagavad Gita also. We read those verses the other day. But how to see, that's the whole point. So the whole, the word for philosophy in Sanskrit is darshan, which means how to see. In English, the word for philosophy is derived from the Greek philos, and it means the love of wisdom. So that's okay, but darshan is much more significant. Because one person, like a mother, sees a child with eyes of love and protection. And another person looking at the same child, if the person is a child molester, looks in a different way. So how we see determines the consciousness we have. So if we see through the Shastra and the statements of bona fide devotees, then we will see correctly. And if we see through the speculations of the scientists and the philosophers, we will see incorrectly. And that's why there's such a major difference between the Mayavad philosophy and the Vaishnava philosophy. Now, we've explained some of those differences previously. I want to go into it even deeper today because this is essential. Most of the gurus in India are Mayavadis, impersonalists, and they are teaching wrongly how to see. And that's why there's so many problems. But there are a few bona fide spiritual masters. One of them was Srila Prabhupada, and his guru, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and some of his god brothers, some of the other disciples of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who were explaining how to see properly based on the original Shastric evidences of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and the Pancharatra of Narada Muni. So first of all, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, verse number 5, it says, okay, we'll start with verse number 4. It says, speaking about Vyasadeva, it says, thus he, Vyasadeva, this is Canto 1, Chapter 7, verse number 5, fixed his mind, perfectly engaging it by linking it in the devotional service, bhakti yoga, without any tinge of materialism. And thus he saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, meaning Maya, which was under full control. So in the purport, Prabhupada explains, perfect vision of the absolute truth is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. So you see, right? He's talking about vision, how to see, and he's talking about perfect vision. You don't see with the raw eye. You see through the prism of Shastra. And to learn how to see through the prism of Shastra, you need bona fide Siksha and Diksha gurus and a lineage and connection to a bona fide disciplic lineage like the Brahma, Gaudiya, Vaishnava Sampradaya. There are 4 bona fide Sampradayas, the Sri Sampradaya, the Brahma Sampradaya, the Rudra Sampradaya, and the Kumar Sampradaya. And whether you're in one or the other, they all have the same conclusion, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So if you are in those 4 Sampradayas, and if the teachers are bona fide, you'll be able to see correctly, or like Vyasadeva, perfect vision of the absolute truth. is possible only by the linking process of devotional service. So, unless we're engaged in devotional service, we'll never really understand or see things correctly. Bhaktyamam avijananti yamanyaschasvi tatpata tatomam tatpato gyatva vishitetad anantaram. It's only in 18th chapter and 55th verse, it says, only by devotional service can one understand Krishna. Okay, so then it says, this is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. One can perfectly realize absolute truth, personality, Godhead, only by the process of devotional service. That's the verse I just quoted. And one can enter into the kingdom of God by such perfect knowledge. Imperfect realization of the absolute by the partial approach of the impersonal Brahman or the localized Paramatma does not permit anyone to enter into the kingdom of God. So therefore, all the followers of the Mayavad philosophy, all the followers of Patanjali will never be able to attain Vaikuntha or Goloka Vrindavan because they have incomplete knowledge. And they're not approaching through devotional service. They're approaching through Jnana Yoga or Astanga Yoga. And they'll never reach perfection that way. They might reach Brahman realization, but they won't be able to go any further. Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Now that's what we should be doing, that's what our children should be doing. Absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. This is the most important point. Srila Vyasadeva, just like people become absorbed in the stock market. Other people become absorbed in sports. Other people get absorbed in politics. Some people get absorbed in television programs. Some people are absorbed in making money. So in this way, other people are absorbed in illicit activities. So we see that being absorbed in something is not rare. But being absorbed in Krishna, that is rare. People are absorbed in all these other things, right? But that proves that you can be completely absorbed, right? But being completely absorbed in Krishna and his pastimes is a rare thing. Why? Because it's a transcendental state. And most people do not want to be transcendental. They want to be in the material world, in the line of fire of falsity and misery and exploitation and so forth. So it says, Sri Narada advised Srila Vyasadeva to become absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. The absolute vision is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga. Sorry. I have to take this. Hello? Haribol. Yes, Prabhu. Which truck?
The truck in the farm, that big dense truck. They loaded everything in that truck.
Well, I mean, Janavatsal is the one who knows how to do it. It might not be working.
No. They just got me loaded.
Yeah.
But in the sense they
Oh, they have to plug them in. They have to plug them in.
yeah.
Well, call up Janavatsal, tell him to go do it.
Yeah. Can that Prabhu can do? I'll call Jana also.
No, call Jana right now. I mean, he can do it with Jana, but he might not. You know, I mean, you have to have all the different wires. You need a wire for each one.
No, only 2 phases only. Yeah.
Okay, then you need two wires. Yeah. So or else you need a multiple plug. So call John Wetzel right away. Thank you. Sorry. So, Bharham Janmanamante Ganavamam Prapadyante Vasudeva Samamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabhaha. After many, many lifetimes of speculation, one may come eventually to understanding that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right? And in other words, Vasudeva Sarvamiti, Krishna, you are everything for me. Then they become genuinely Krishna conscious and transcendental, and they're qualified to go back to Godhead. So, whatever our mind is dwelling on will determine what's going to happen to us. If our mind is predominantly dwelling on sense gratification, we're going to keep taking birth and go through the cycle of birth and death. If we can fix our mind on Krishna, we're going to go back to Godhead. So learning to do that is real knowledge. And therefore, Narada Muni, the guru of Vyasadeva, is telling him, look, you should completely be absorbed in transcendental meditation on the personality of Godhead and his activities. Now, in the Brahma Jyoti, there are no activities. Therefore, it's illusory. And people will fall down, even though it's the position of eternality. So, not only will you meditate on Krishna, but you also have to meditate on his activities, what he does. Right? Just like there are magazines, like you go to the checkout counter in the Safeway or Fred Meyer, and you see these nonsense magazines all about movie stars. People buy those magazines every week or every month. But when they buy them, they look around, no one's looking, they grab it and they put it face down so no one knows what they're doing. Because, you have to be an idiot to buy those magazines. You ever see those magazines? Right. It's all about the lifestyle of the perverts who are movie stars, politicians, and sports people. It's all about all the nonsense that they do. And people like reading that, right? So, why not have a magazine that's only Krishna's pastimes? You see, no one will buy that. They want to know what Johnny Depp is doing, or his girlfriend is doing, and this thing and that thing. So we see how perverted people are. But yet, they're showing that you can be fully absorbed in something. They're fully absorbed in understanding all the perversion of these movie stars. But we can become, if they can become absorbed in that, that proves that we could become absorbed completely in thinking of Krishna and his activities. Srila Vyasadeva did not take notice of the effulgence of Brahman because that is not absolute vision. Okay, vision, seeing, right? That's real philosophy, how to see properly. The absolute vision, again, he's talking about seeing, is the personality of Godhead, as it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 7:19. Vasudeva Sarvamiti, meaning Vasudeva, Krishna, you are everything for me. I don't give any importance to anything else. I just give importance to this. That's Krishna. Just like a man who's overwhelmed with sense gratification, he doesn't give importance to anything else except sense gratification. That proves that we can give all our attention to Krishna consciousness and not be absorbed in anything else. That doesn't mean that we become dysfunctional in society. It just means that our main preoccupation is Krishna. Just like there are men and women, there are fanatics they're addicted to sense gratification. It's in their mind all the time, but yet they're still functioning. They're still going to work. They still have a family. They still go to the Safeway and buy that magazine, and they're doing all these things. But their real meditation in the mind is sense gratification. See? And therefore, that proves that we could be 24 hours a day thinking of Krishna, just like they are thinking of sense gratification 24 hours a day. So, in the Upanishads, also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, or Krishna, the personality of Godhead. So, when it's Vasudeva with a short A, that's referring to Krishna's father. When it's Vasudeva with a long A, that's referring to Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. Okay. And sometimes Vasudeva with a short A refers to the expansions of Krishna, the Narayana expansions of Krishna. So it depends on the context. In the Upanishads, also it is confirmed that Vasudeva, the personality of Godhead, is covered by the golden, glowing Hiranyamayana Patrina veil of impersonal Brahman. So this Hiranyamayana Patrina is the Brahman effulgence, and it's like a shroud. Just like if you look straight into the sun at, let's say, 12 o'clock in the afternoon on a day there were no clouds and it's a hot sun, you will, you could go blind by doing that on a regular basis. But see, you can't actually look at it directly because eventually it blinds your eyes. It's like a shroud, that powerful light. So, Krishna is covered by the golden glowing Hiranyamayana Patrina. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita also, that the Brahma Jyoti effulgence is so bright. In fact, it's described in Bhagavad Gita as millions of suns rising at once. So therefore you can't really see anything because it covers your eyes with that intense light. And Krishna is covered like that. So we are covered by Maya, and Krishna is covered by Yoga Maya, or the Brahma Jyoti. Therefore, we have to overcome both coverings in order to see Krishna. That's why it's difficult to see Krishna correctly, unless we are free of Maya, and also unless Krishna agrees to open up the Brahma Jyoti so we can see him. And that's a verse in the Ishopanishad, mantra 15, Hiranmayana Patrena Satyasya Bhutam Bhakam Tattvam Pusam Apavrina Satyadharmaya Dristaye. The 15th mantra of the Ishopanishad says, my dear Lord, please remove the curtain of light that is covering you so that I can see your smiling face. Pusaneka Seyama Surya Prajapatya Vyuha Rasmin Samaha Tejo Yatte Rupam Kalyanatamam Tate Pasyami Yosavaso Purushaha Sohamasme. Again, it says, please, my Lord, remove this light, this brilliant light, so I can see your beautiful face. Right? So, this is the prayers by the Sri Upanishad. Sri Upanishad, the Sri Upanishad and the other Upanishads are persons. They're not just books. They are actually persons who are always near the Lord and always chanting the glories of the Lord. Right? So the Ishopanishad personality is chanting the Ishopanishad, and the other Upanishads are chanting their verses to glorify the Lord. When the curtain is removed, the curtain of light is removed by the mercy of the Lord, the real face of the Absolute is seen. So it's nothing that we do mechanically that will let us see Krishna. Even chanting Hare Krishna is not enough to see Krishna. Krishna has to give his special mercy. Then we can see him. Right? So, obviously you approach Krishna through his holy name, which is non-different than Krishna. But when we chant purely and have no material desires and simply desire the pleasure of the Lord by offering our service to him, then Krishna will deign, D-E-I-G-N, look up that word, deign. ordained that that he removes this covering of light and lets us see him. The Absolute is mentioned here as the Purusha or person. The Absolute Personality of Godhead is mentioned in so many Vedic literatures and in the Bhagavad Gita. The Purusha is confirmed as the eternal and original person. Now we're trying to be Purushas ourselves, but actually Krishna is the Purusha. We're just Prakriti. We are enjoyed by the Lord. Did you see that word?
It's a DEIGN, right?
Yes.
It says, do something that one considers to be beneath one's dignity.
Okay, keep going. Second definition.
It says, condensed to give something.
Right. So, deign, the Lord is deigned to give, to do away with the curtain of light so that the devotee can see him. So it's not that we can mechanically attain the correct vision of the Lord. The Lord has to choose us because of our absolute sincerity. Just like it said in the purport today that the cowherd boys who were playing with the Lord were actually very great devotees who engaged for many, many lifetimes in pure devotional service. Yeah, it says, all these trees and birds and beasts were pious living entities born in the transcendental abode of Vrindavana just to give pleasure to the Lord and his eternal associates, the cowherd boys. And then furthermore it says, the cowherd boys were great rishis and yogis in their previous births. And after many such pious births, they gained the association of the Lord and could play with him on equal terms. Such cowherd boys never cared to know who Krishna was, but they played with him as the most intimate and lovable friend. They were so fond of the Lord that at night they would only think of the next morning when they would be able to meet the Lord and go together to the forest for cowherding. See? So it's not an easy thing to see Krishna correctly. We need to have a big stock of devotional service in our life. But if we act sincerely and actually have no material desires, only desires to please the Lord, and work with that determination, we will see Krishna correctly in this lifetime. Okay. So then it says, the absolute personality of Godhead is the perfect person, the supreme person, has manifold energies, meaning many, many energies, out of which the internal, external, and marginal energies are specifically important. The energy mentioned here is the external energy, as will be clear from the statements of her activities. The internal energy is there along with the absolute person, as the moonlight is there with the moon. The external energy is compared to darkness because it keeps the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. The word apasrayam suggests that the energy of the Lord is under full control. The internal potency or superior energy is also called Maya, but it is spiritual Maya, or energy exhibited in the absolute realm. When one is under the shelter of this internal potency, the darkness of material ignorance is at once dissipated. And even those who are avatars, or fixed in trance, take shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service in trance takes shelter of this Maya, or internal energy. Devotional service, or bhakti yoga, is the function of the internal energy. Thus, there is no place for the inferior energy or marginal energy, or material energy, just as there is no place for darkness in the effulgence of the spiritual light. Such internal energy is even superior to the spiritual bliss attainable in the conception of impersonal Brahman. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that the impersonal Brahman effulgence is also an emanation from the absolute personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. The Parama Purusha cannot be anyone except Sri Krishna himself, as will be explained in the later slokas. Okay, so we see that without Krishna choosing us, we will not be able to see him correctly. And why should he choose us? Because we are completely dedicated to him, without any material desire in our heart. And that is possible. It is possible by proper association and training and hearing. And Prabhupada explains this. He says, where does he say that? He says, his disciple says, today's scientists and philosophers and psychologists, they say the only authority they can accept is their own mind. Srila Prabhupada. In Sanskrit, they are called manodharmi, mental speculators. Disciple. But don't we have to experiment with different mental perspectives if we're going to understand the world? Wow, that's a very good question, right? Prabhupada. Actually, mental speculators have been condemned. Manoratanasati, Dahavato Bayi, Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 18th chapter, 12th verse. Because they are simply carried away by the chariot of the mind. The mind is flickering, always changing. Sankalpa, vikalpa. Sometimes it accepts something, and then other times it rejects the same thing, right? Sankalpa, vikalpa. The mind's business is to accept something and again reject it. All these mental speculators are doing just that. Somebody's putting forward some theory, and after a few years, he will himself reject it, or somebody else will reject it. So by mental speculation, you will remain on the material changing platform. You cannot get any lasting idea. Disciple. But the scientists feel strongly about their research. They're convinced they've done some real good for the world. Srila Prabhupada. They think this is bad, that is good, but they do not know that in this material world, saying this is bad and that is good is all mental speculation, all a mistake. They do not know that in this material world, bad and good are the same thing because both are simply matter. Disciple, how can you say that bad and good are the same thing? Prabhupada, for instance, we are walking on this road. Sometimes we say, this is very good. And sometimes we say, this is very bad. But the road is the same. So how is it both good and bad? This is simply speculation. Today we may say, this road is dry, it is dusty, bad. Tomorrow we may say, this road is dry and is not at all muddy, good. It is simply mental speculation. It's still a bit it's still a bit hard to understand what you're saying. Srila Prabhupada. Here is another example. In India, the villagers pass stool out in the open fields. By the end of the day, the sun has left the top part of the stool dry. So when some fool sees the dry part of the stool, he may say, "Oh, this part is very nice." Whether he forgets that after all, it is stool. So what is the difference whether it is dry or moist? In the same way, the scientists are making great advancement, but death is still there. So we have to ask, what is the difference whether you make advancement or no advancement? One who has not advanced in science will die, and you, so-called advanced people, will also die. Then what is the use? Neither the scientist nor the ordinary person can protect himself from death. Then what is the meaning of good and good? This is good. This is advancement, or this is not advancement. Disciple. But I think the distinction between good and bad depends on the consciousness of the individual. Srila Prabhupada. Relativity, the law of relativity. One man's food is another man's poison. So how can you distinguish whether this is food or poison? One man will say, no, it is food. Another man will say, it is poison. So how will you distinguish? You see, this good and bad is simply mental speculation because it is on the mental platform. There is nothing good. All that is speculation because it is on the material platform. There is good. There is nothing good. And that the scientists and philosophers are doing is cheating. They say, we are advancing. In what way are you advancing? The problem of birth and death is still there. So what is the meaning of your advancement? Disciple. So we have to get off the chariot of the mind. Prabhupada, yes. If you remain on the chariot of the mind, then whatever you accept, you'll have to reject again. And that is just what they are doing. The so-called scientists and philosophers, they are putting forward some theory, and after some time, they reject it. So if you remain on the mental platform, then this business of accepting and rejecting will go on. You'll never come to the lasting conclusion. One has to rise to the platform, a spiritual platform. That is Nitya Sasvato Yam. Eternal, disciple. Are you saying everything in the world is worthless? Prabhupada, just try to understand. It can have value and meaning. For instance, you add thousands of zeros together, one after another, but the value will still be zero. It will never become one. But by the side of zero, if you bring one, immediately that becomes 10. And another zero, immediately you have 100. You have increased it 10 times, but that one must be there. And that is Ekam Brahma. That is Ekam Brahma, one supreme spirit. Then zero increases in its value. Similarly, this material world is zero, bad. But if there is Krishna consciousness, then it has value. Then it has value. So he didn't say it's good. He said it has value. What is the value? You can go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Right? And then student, doesn't the chariot of mind have any value at all? Srila Prabhupada, no, it has no value. He's not backing down, right? Student, disciple, but the whole Western philosophical, Prabhupada, Manaratanasati Davato Bayi, this is Shastra, the 5th canto, 18th chapter, it's saying that this mental speculation is zero, it's nonsense. By mental speculation, you'll remain in this temporary field. Asat means that which does not exist. You will take anything in this material world, someday it will not exist. Anyone knows it. A skyscraper is constructed, but everyone knows that it will not exist. Someday it will fall down. Everyone knows it will not endure. Therefore, Prahlad Maharaj says, Maya Sukhaya Baram Udvahato Vimudan. For illusory happiness, people are making huge, gorgeous government arrangements and working day and night for something that will be zero. It has begun as zero and it will end as zero. In the middle, they're busy. Just see. Therefore, they are vimudan, fools and rascals. Whoa. That's amazing statements by Prabhupada. Okay, what time is it now? Perfect. Okay, are there any questions? We'll continue on this subject tomorrow. This is, the material world is zero. January 1974. The material world is zero. Prabhupada, January 1974. Okay, then we'll have Guru Puja. You see how Prabhupada doesn't back down. He sticks to the Shastra. The disciples, they're trying to, move the needle this way, that way, but Prabhupada won't let it move. Because Shastra is the absolute measure. It's not speculation. What? Yeah. Yeah, sankalpa, vikalpa. The mind is always accepting and rejecting. The intelligence is superior to the mind because it can think more clearly, but the mind will, in a general way, quickly accept and reject. Just like someone says, I love you, and then something happens and says, I hate you, right? So it went from I love you to I hate you. So that's the tragedy of mental speculation. Okay.
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bandho Mui Savadana Mate
Bandho Mui Savadana Mate
Jahara Prasade Bhai E Bhava Toriya Jai
Janara Prasade Bhai He Bhavatoriya Jai
Krishna Prapti Hoy Jaha Hoy Te
Krishna Prapti Oya Oite
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitite Koriya Kya
Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya
Arana Koriya Mane Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
Shri Guru Charani Rati Aise Utama Gati
Shri Guru Charane Rati Aise Utama Gati
Jai Prasade Pure Sarva Asha
Arana Koriya Mane Asa
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
चक्षुदान दिला जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से
दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जाहो दे अविद्या विनाश जाते
प्रेम भक्ति जावते अविद्या विनश्य जाते
वेद गाय जहर चेरी padama janara bandhu
Guru Karuna Sindhu Advana Janara Bandhu
Lokanath Lokera Jivana Ah Prabhu Koro Doya Deho More Pada Chaya
Aha Prabhu Kora Doya Deha More Pada Chaya
Ebe Jas Gashik Tribhuvana
Ebeyas Sakti Bhuvana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Prabhupada Patita Pavana
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine
Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva Jaya Guru Deva
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol
Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Pararajagachasta Tarasatara Shimad, His Divine Grace. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samukunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Mayapura Dham Ki Jai, Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai, Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Ganga Maya Ki Jai, Jamuna Maya Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktavinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premananda. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to assembled, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Patita Pavana Ki Jai. The lotus feet of our spiritual master are the only way by which we can attain to pure devotional service. I bow down to his lotus feet with great awe and reverence. By his grace one can cross suffering and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth and birth. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Go to Premanandi Hari Bol.